life coach, Ivory Edwards Adkins. Applause, applause, applause. She is here to discuss theory and practice, her problems, challenges in life, how she has aligned and constructed her values, created well-informed goals, the process of experiential transformation. This month, we are specifically focused on sequence 5, which is feedback and reflection. She's going to talk a little bit about identifying the exceptions, which we're going to cover in September. I'm excited about that. And then we're going to track progress, how she has made progress or adjusted to the changes that have occurred in her life. So I'm really excited about her being here today. I learned so much from her just in regard to primarily how to be a better person and how to make yourself available to other people. So I'm going to quickly just change the information here so that you can know who she is. This is actually an audio interview. We are actually completing the interview on Zoom, but my video is inactive and so is Ivory's. Mom, what do you want me to call you? Do I need to call you Mom or do
You can call me Ivory for this purpose.
I can call you Ivory? Okay, that feels really awkward, but I will do that. And so, yeah, I guess we can get this interview started. Let me just make one more change to the name situation so we can get this interview started, Mama. So, see, I ain't gonna even be able to call you.
Go ahead, call me Mama then. That's right.
I am not gonna be able to call you Ivory. I'll be like, why? So yeah, so I'm just really excited about having this conversation, because I think that we have endured a lot through, in the course of the immaculate experience of you bringing me here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And bringing me into this living space that we call life. But we've encountered a lot, Mom, especially in this last year. But I do want to start the questions by going back, right? Because every year around my birthday, you always say, I'm having labor pains.
Right, true.
Right. So I want you to go back to the fall of 1969 and kind of explain to me and the listening audience what was going on in the life of this young girl that we know today as Ivory Edwards Adkins in the fall of 1969.
Okay, by that time, I had figured out I was pregnant. So I was in quite a bit of turmoil in that time. Fall was the time, September, going back to school. And once I pretty much had figured out, well, I went back to school pregnant. I actually did when I first found out I was pregnant. But that following semester, I had figured out I wasn't going back to school that second semester. And that, of course, I'll say go back a little bit more. I hadn't told anyone I was pregnant, maybe except for my friends. And I was able to hide it very well up until my 8th month. By that time, September, I found out I was pregnant. And, the reason I know is because you were conceived at least exactly 9 months from your birth. So I knew the date, I knew the hour, I knew the time that I had sexual relations. So when my menstruation and my cycle didn't come, pretty much figured out I was pregnant.
All right. So the beginning of the school year, right? And so Some people knew, friends knew, right?
Yeah,
And
probably closest friend.
you said your closest friends. Who were they
Yeah.
at that time?
That would have been Alma and Lucille.
Okay. Okay. And did Alma and Lucille know before your sisters did?
Yes.
They did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. So a key part of the MZZ for Life Coaching Solutions model is values and alignment of values. And by realigning values, we get to decide, if the problem in our lives continue, or we can create, solutions to deal with the problems by adjusting values. So I guess for, a teenage girl, and it sounds like, school was important to you, right? How did you go about the process of shifting values, realigning your values as a teenage girl, Mom?
Well, it worked out pretty well because I had always went to summer school. So I figured out I had enough credits to get through that mid semester and came back, right after your birth, shortly after your birth, in June. Well, was it June? You were born in May. So I had the summer and could go back that September. I think that's how it went. But anyway, you said it's about realigning values. I'm not sure what you mean by that in terms of going back in September and realizing I was pregnant. Yes, school was important to me, but more so important was that I kind of had that continuum of my education. And to be honest, not really knowing and figuring out a lot of stuff, because I can be honest and say that sometimes when I figure stuff out, so people sometimes can outsmart themselves. I have a tendency to do that. I had really calculated and used the rhythmic method of sexual activity, and I had it ASS backwards. So I had sex during my most fertile time, planned by me, and I got pregnant.
That's why I call it immaculate conception. I was supposed
So you definitely meant to be here, James.
Yes, indeed. I know this today. I know this. So when I say adjusting values or aligning values, it seems like with women, when a child is conceived, like it's just boom, like you're a parent, like you're a mom.
Yeah.
And the responsibilities that you have to take on, in the process of assuming that role is impressive to me. As I mature, I realize how large of an imposition of values it is for a woman, and
yeah, but I guess that's why women are the ones that bear children. We are the nurturer. We're equipped in our body to be the nurturer. So I think if you look at it like that, physically, we're also mentally equipped in some kind of way because you just naturally do it, or at least I think most women naturally do it. And I could say, and I wanted this to be, accolades given. I was the family babysitter quite young in my life. And so at that time, my aunts were having babies, and I was taught to change diapers. At that time, they sterilized bottles, put the baby to sleep, burp, so I was equipped in a way.
Okay. And so, Ma, you conceived another child shortly after I was born. Is that?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Are you open to talking a little bit about that? And that child did not survive.
True, I am.
Go for it.
Oh, Well, that child was conceived shortly afterwards. Found myself in a hell of a situation again. I didn't try the rhythmic method then though, just caught. And the baby, actually the baby was born June 14th, 1971.
Okay.
So it was also my graduating year from high school. The baby was born 1 ounce basically. That time, the neonatal ICU was nothing like it is today, where those babies normally survive.
Right.
Well, our baby, little Cecil Claude Edwards, did not survive. And he lived for 14 days and he succumbed, which is really kind of weird because I was so young, even at that time, that I couldn't embrace that. You know, I didn't know how to handle that. And so I guess my dad was told the information and, you know, it was just kind of weird. It was told the information and then he told me, and that was it. I didn't have the wherewithal to want to see my baby, didn't have the wherewithal to get him and even ask questions like I would do today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know his body, I assume, and this is really an assumption. And I think it was told to me, but I can't say 100% sure that his body would be used for research.
Okay.
And so I'm assuming that that's what happened. And I would like to assume that because when I look back on it, it could kind of give me that there was some purpose. And especially because, like I said, I just saw a baby today that was under, that his weight or maybe under, that lived, survived, and went home with his parents.
Yeah, I just think that's amazing how, you know, situations that took a life maybe 10 years ago, where today, you know, that person, you know, in the same situation might still be alive. So I think that that's just the.
Right. Then it was really kind of weird because, you know, at that time, even they have upgraded the oxygen mask where it's not so confining. That's one thing I remember about seeing him. And I never saw his face. Mom did, but I never saw his face because from the time I saw him, he had this very constricting mask type thing over his face so that it oxygen, so that he could receive oxygen. So I never really even seen his face. I just seen this tiny little body, no bigger than half my arm. But today they have different methods for even that, the oxygen mask.
And so, yeah, some pretty serious situations for a young girl, right? You weren't 18 yet, were you?
No. Well, no, I wasn't because I didn't turn 18 until after graduation in August. Graduation was in June. And I kind of went in labor early at 6 months.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot for a young girl to handle, but it seems like, you know, you kept it all together. And then, so I always think that right after you graduated, you know, from school, you started doing hair, but that's not the case. You actually went back to school, right?
Yeah. After I graduated from high school, I did go back that September to beauty school.
Okay.
So I had that whole summer off and I went back to beauty school in, was it September? I think it was September. Pretty sure it was September that following year. That year, rather.
Of 1970 or 71?
It had to be, you were already walking, so maybe it was 71.
71, okay.
Yeah.
All of 71. All right. And so school evidently was a value of yours. Like, you know, learning was important. And so how did you make or what was the process of you, telling yourself, hey, I want to be a cosmetologist, I want to go to school, I want to learn how to do hair. What was that?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I have always had a talent for doing hair. I used to always, would do my friends' hair. Young girls did those kind of things back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Mom and dad were already in the business.
Okay. I
had no idea nor clue what vocations were.
Okay.
The many of vocations that were available.
Right.
And so what I did, I went looking for a job, applying, wouldn't get hired because I didn't know how to type. So from that point, I decided must have talked to my mom. And the decision was made that I would go to beauty school full time instead of working as an apprentice, because she felt like I could get more of the training if I went full time as a student.
Mm-hmm.
No master design, just kind of following what life gave me, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And so, but what I can recall, Ma, is that you have a really strong work ethic, and in creating the questions and just thinking about it, a lot of what I know about organization, I learned from you. I can always remember you with the appointment books, right?
Yeah.
And calling people, even when it comes to, how to file bills, like, you remember the empty shoe boxes?
Yeah, I do.
That is amazing.
And a lot of that too was like you learned from me. I also learned from my parents. Both my parents were individually in different businesses, barber and cosmetology. Mm-hmm. And I just remembered them always on Mondays taking care of bills.
Okay.
And so the other part I more so learned as far as sorting and whatever, pretty much on my own. I was required to work at the barbershop on Saturday. So I was taught then how to do Social Security withdrawals or whatever like that, because I did the books final for Daddy on Saturdays. And that was prior to you being born. That was up until the time I got pregnant. I was mandated to work on Saturdays. And work the cash register and do the book. So I learned a lot from my parents.
Yes. And I think that anybody who knew, Reverend Edwards was mandated to, develop some type of work skill, right?
Yeah.
To be resourceful in some area of their life. If it wasn't just, sweeping up here on the floor. So.
And then again, I learned early that in order, especially in the field that I was doing, cosmetology, in order to make money, you had to be there.
Okay.
And so, you had to build a clientele. You have to be skilled enough to hold the clientele. So education was always important to me because I always upgraded my skills. And, even, in opening a business, I learned I needed more business skills. So I took more courses, read more books, things of that nature. So I don't know, it was just, like I said, sometimes I just fell into a lot of things. It's just knowing that in order to make money, you had to be at work.
And so I guess, there was a progression or an elevation in your career. So can you talk a little bit about how you just went from, working with your mom and then making a decision to open your own salon and then scaling down to not owning a salon and then moving into where you are today to a place of retirement? And talk a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it was no grand scheme of mine to open up no salon and leave my mom's working. That was influenced by others. And looking back on it, it's not the most well, it ain't the most design thing that I ever did. But I did it, and very profitable for me. Learned a lot. Learned a lot. And like I said, I increased my education in business. I increased my education in the skills and of doing hair, and actually went on to be a trainer for for a national manufacturer, which was teaching something that I love to do as well. And then it got to the place where, it was time to progress or proceed in business. And I was really, again, trying to do something that really wasn't done in the Black hair care industry here in the city of Milwaukee. I was trying to be able to pay benefits. And that was just something people weren't used to. And so ultimately, the thing is that most of the people that were working on with me, they left and went on to new adventures or opened up their own salon when they were, able to. But, so what I'm saying is it had to keep pay low by being able to pay benefits, and it would have been a transitional type thing. So that process didn't work out too well. And that would have been the moving on to like working like booth rental type of situation, where I was working individually as myself, but still my own boss, still an entrepreneur. So working within another salon, but still my own establishment, because we actually had to have managers and establishment license in order to operate that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved on from that to actually being a suite owner in another salon, which is where I retired from.
Okay.
And the retirement came about mostly last year. Age was one factor, physical ability another factor, COVID a big factor. Big factor, because I actually didn't know how to transition out of doing hair. I didn't know how to just leave some clients. I didn't know how to just stop. So COVID gave me the perfect opportunity to just stop doing hair. And it's a pattern developed here, is that I never by design did much of in my life. I don't know if you saw that, but I see it. I just kind of fell into it.
Well, I think that, or are you talking about in terms of career, or are you just talking about life experiences?
Life experiences in general. I ain't have these grandeur designs. Once I got into doing hair, owning a business, I could learn how to become a business owner, a business manager. So that's what I did, but I didn't have a grand plan. I didn't have a grand plan in much of anything.
So you never operated with intention. You don't feel
exactly. Good word.
Okay, so you feel like it was an instance of, let the chips fall where they may?
It seems like it would have had to be that way.
Yeah, and so I was wondering if that's actually a problem, because it seems like it's like that for a lot of people, especially in light of COVID. And then when it comes to, having children, most people don't have plan. Yeah, it just kind of happens. Yeah. So
well, it's true in some cases, but I have seen people that had steps to be ordered, where they have ordered their steps and they had very defined goals. My goals became more defined once I got into something. Okay. But as far as me designing, No.
Okay. Okay. Well, that'll be
Which is not a good thing.
well. well I guess we could definitely talk a little bit more about that though. But spontaneity when it comes to living your life, don't you think it has its place?
Yes, I do think so, but I don't think that was even spontaneity. I think it was just, I don't think I wouldn't call it spontaneity because I'm not a very spontaneous person.
Okay. All right. And
If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
well, I guess you have your personal view of yourself, and then
Mhm,
I have my personal
mhm,
as your child
mhm.
has observed you pretty closely um, for quite some time. So you definitely are one of my favorite case studies. Um,
I
but
bet.
while we were talking, I know cats are not your favorite animal, Mom. But I was thinking about how they talk about cats. How you could throw a cat up in the air,
Mhm.
and 9 times out of 10, the cat is gonna come down on his feet.
Right.
And I consider you, not only because you're a Leo, but I consider you to have the prowess of a cat. You always.
I've been called that before.
So, and I think I may have borrowed that analogy from your dad. So,
Yeah, but yeah, okay.
rough on rats, rough on cats. One of that. That what
Yeah,
he say
yeah, yeah.
rough on rats, rough on cats.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mama.
No.
So moving into retirement, um, can you talk a little bit more about what that has been like for you in the midst of COVID-19?
Horrible.
2020 was bad for you. Okay.
Horrible because of COVID, and then it had its whining, and then I felt uplifted because I could start doing some things that I wanted to do in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And then I find, okay, we're back into another surge. I just feel strongly about that. So it's not the time again to get back out there and do those things. So it's kind of and by the way, I'm a homebody, so COVID didn't really bother me so much in that regard. Um, I can keep myself pretty busy with things that I'm entertained by. So that's pretty much been my retirement for now, but I'm looking forward to better. COVID, go away.
Yeah. So, Mama, in the midst of your retirement, though, you assumed a new career. You started caregiving, and I kind of forgot about that part.
Yeah, me too. But I did that. I did that prior to retiring.
Correct.
I had done that for 5 years actually before I actually retired.
Okay.
And I retired from that as well from COVID.
Mm-hmm. Because of COVID, right?
Because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was something that because business financially was wanting for me, and I needed, really drastic changes had happened in my life, and I need to build a new income base, and that was a skill that I was awarded, again, very not by direct design, but by a friend who was owning a school and granted me free access to school.
Okay.
That's Vivian St. Julian, good friend, loved her to death, and she's no longer with us. But yeah, my friend gave me that. And so again, and then sometimes you just can see things, steps being ordered in a certain kind of way. Because in taking care of my mom and my dad gave me, especially my mom first, I'll say it that way, more interest in caregiving. Because I actually learned a lot as it went on from being in the hospital, from watching caregivers, learning how to do certain things just in the care of a person. And so with my dad becoming elderly, the focus pushed from him to him after mom's passing. And I just believe in honor thy father and their mother, and your days will be extended and longer on the earth. So that was a no-go. It was no decision made there again. It's just something you do, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it came in great, it was great reward having that skill for my daddy.
Mm-hmm.
But that was another experience that I came into that was very rewarding because I learned so much by working with the company that I worked for. It was a private pay kind of situation. They didn't do Medicare, they didn't do Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the people, all the people pretty much were wealthy or had long-term disability insurance. So it offered me the opportunity to go in different homes and learn different people, which I'd never been exposed to in my life like that before.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But as far as working and retiring, I did my share. I did hair for like 49 years. Worked that job. I did everything I wanted to do as far as levels of it. There was platform working. I did that. I taught it in school. So yeah, I felt like that was an accomplishment of my goals that were made.
Yeah, 49 years.
So,
That's a long time, huh?
Yeah, pretty well ready to retire, I think.
So yeah, we got to have a retirement celebration of some sort. Once once all this calms down. So.
Excuse me. Yeah, one day.
Yeah. So Ma, you said you're a homebody, right? But when you go through tough times, I think you have the tendency to experience them in isolation. And so I guess, just looking back over 2020, I guess it was the first time, well, one of the first times I've ever really been there with you and knew that it was challenging for you. But what is your process of like moving through trying times, getting support and making sure that you learn, heal, and come out new and refreshed on the other side of your challenging times?
I guess it's something I've always done in my life. As a child, I went through my parents being divorced and separated, or separated and divorced. And I went through trying to process the thoughts and thinking on my own, pretty much deciding to get pregnant on my own, figuring that out on my own. And so most times in life situations, I've gotten through it on my own. I have friends that I can confide in, very close friends. And I can confide in people I love, some people that I love and I love me. And I may have a love, trust, confidential issues, rejections and things like that. Because when you learn to just confide or hold things in, or either after learning or knowing that other people go through hard times and trials too, and you don't want to be a dumper. So one way or the other, you're going to have to figure this stuff out. And I think that's probably pretty much what I've done.
So you think that, in the midst of trying times, it's up to the individual at some point to construct their own plan for making it through?
I think ultimately you're going to have to.
Okay.
I think it's wonderful to have therapy, assistance, friendship. All those things are wonderful, but I think at the bottom of the ninth, you're going to still have to make some decisions based on the information that you've been giving. or give in. And so I think pretty much that's me. I have not had a problem seeking out information. So I have a array of resources to seek information from. I've always been a very avid reader.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, things I was concerned or interested in, I studied it in school or out of school.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I could, and I realized too, it's not so bad being a homebody. It's not bad being a loner in a way. It's not really that bad. People may think, well, that's you're just a homebody, but I'm not a person that's flighty and skippy either. Some people are pretty flighty and skippy.
Okay.
But I can I guess in that long time, you can kind of go sort through your thoughts. And I'm, just a person that's had to do that all my life.
So when you talk about, having to create, solutions and make meaning, on your own, if you had to go back to one of the more challenging times, I just thought about, being a teen parent. And I don't know why that particular aspect of your life has become interesting to me lately. But if you had to go back to your 16-year-old self, like what advice do you feel like you didn't get that you would have given yourself then?
Don't do the rhythmic method. That don't work if you don't know what you do. Don't do that. Also, I would, there's a lot of things I would be more thoughtful about.
Okay.
And more planned in it. I would live more by more design.
Okay.
More initiative to have not very strict plans, but more what did I desire to do, something like that. 16, I could go back and just say a lot of things. One thing about living is that you live long enough to understand even the dumbest things you did in life. You live long enough to, forgive yourself for those things. And I think I'm doing pretty good in that. So in terms of real regrets, no, I don't have real regrets. I just wish I had better plans with better knowledge.
Okay. All right. So, I guess, with just talking about, you losing a child at an early age, you've experienced some grief and loss like throughout the majority of your life. And I guess everybody does, even moving to a different understanding of that as well. But I mean, just loss in regards to, being the child of parents who are divorced. What?
And you have to know that was very impactful.
Absolutely.
Very, very impactful because we had a real issues with communication in that house. Because first we weren't sat down and told our parents were divorcing or separating or anything. Most things were just, you found out by, I don't know, osmosis or something. So it wasn't like, you sat down and told your parents are divorcing and your life is just turned upside down completely. We didn't have that advantage. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the stability and familiarity that you knew was no longer going to be available to you as a child, right? That's a lot.
Exactly. And that was from the age of like 7, 8 years old when things really got shaky, because that was the time my mom went into the workforce. And so all of that stability from birth to, 7 or 8 it was just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that even mom going to work, that was out of tension about finance problems with her and my dad.
Okay.
So, those things contributed. And then what all contributed to the divorce is too much to say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that was like, if you want to be honest, that was like rejection. And it became it was so, and then like I said, when no one taught to communicate, you go within.
Right.
That wasn't even with the older siblings, it wasn't something that was talked about among them.
Mm-hmm.
Or with my younger sibling, that wasn't really a big discussion. I just know we were together, the two youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And we figured out how to navigate by just supporting one another. And that support remained pretty much lifelong.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that like all the children should have been brought to you all should have been brought to the table, sat down with mom and dad and talked about the changes that were about to take place? Do you think that would have
Absolutely.
an effect on you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so, and then if because I could have been the same way in you, I followed pursuit in how they handle things as well. The communication lines weren't always open. And although we've had pretty good communicating, they weren't always like they are now. So those things were learned as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I think in a lot of instances, if we've had better, if I say personally, if I had better, what do you call it, role models in that area,
Okay.
things could have been a lot different because it was about communication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, as we talk about communication, just moving forward with grief and loss, what do you think that you in regard to communication, and us losing, my grandfather, your dad, the pillar of the family, in so many instances. What do you think you've learned like in this last year, or what areas of development would you like to see in yourself or in your relationship with me or in your relationship with the family as a whole as we, start this planning process for Reverend Edward's Way?
Well, my father didn't die to me last year. I saw my father gradually dying.
Okay.
Over a course of about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Having gone to the hospital, having to be his mouth, having to be his legs,
Mm-hmm.
having seen him go down. An example of that, some things we were in a doctor's office and doctor would say, well, I don't have a pill for that.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that means he wasn't going to get any help and that was going to be pain. He could have no more surgeries. And I would just turn my head and cry, tears roll down my eyes, and then I'll fix my face back to relay the information to my dad as regards to what they meant.
Mm-hmm.
But, and it's still very delicate as far as I miss him tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, and matter of fact, when we talk about growing up and some of the experiences I had as a child, as communication in the family, I didn't really get to know who my father was until that 6 years or so period of time when I actually started spending time with him, going to the doctor and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Then I knew him outside of being the preacher, my father, the pastor.
Mm-hmm.
I knew him then as a friend, as a confidant. I knew him then as a great guy.
Right.
You know, I always thought he was stern and inflexible, unflexible or inflexible, whichever. I thought he was this hard piece, you know, but he wasn't. You know, he was the best guy to hang out with. And that's what we did in those 5-6 years, in the time that I was able to learn him better, know him better. And he did the same with me. Great times, laughing, eating ice cream, going to the park, you know, making plans, you know, him showing me how to do this in terms of business. And, you know, some things I thought I knew, I didn't know nothing. Daddy knew what he was talking about. You know, if it wasn't nothing but just drive down this way, don't go this way. And that lesson comes very much in handy right now. Because you know, like one time he said, don't go this way, it's too much traffic, go that way. And I was like, man, it's more than one way to skin a cat. And he would just look at me. But right now, that's what I have to do driving in the city streets of Milwaukee. Got to get another plan and find another way to skin a cat and drive in a different area where it's not that busy. So, you know, losing my dad, I had prepared for that. Like I had to prepare for my mom's death, which gave me more practice when it came time to lose my father. And people say, well, even though, you know, you prepared yourself, you're never prepared. Well, I choose to, I don't believe that like that. I think you can prepare.
Okay. And
so, and that's what, you know, another thing is that, hey, death is for sure. Death is for sure. So I don't think we as Americans, as people in this country, have taught to deal with grief. Who teaches you to deal with grief? Nobody. You know, as a child even, I'm stuck up going to funerals, looking at bodies, having nightmares for the rest of my life. No one says we're going to a funeral, you're going to see a body laying out here, it's going to be cold. You know, like that type of thing. No one's taught you how to deal with grief. And so again, something that I taught myself, and I'm working through that teaching for myself, because it has to be my answer. Because death will kill you if you're a survivor.
The grief process, it sure will.
Yeah, it'll, you know, and so I said, I can't go out that way. So there got to be a better way. And anybody that know me that I've talked to would tell you that. And so my strength was in doing whatever I could possibly do. So when the time came, I would have no regrets.
Okay.
And that's how I worked through this process of death, because I mean, you know, losing Chris was suddenly and didn't have time to plan for that. And it kind of nearly took me out. You know, I shared with someone, his mom, as far as, and I don't know if I ever told you this, I had went back to work because over the process of bringing Chris' bodies back to Milwaukee, it was a long time, about a month almost. So I tried to go back to work. And while I was at work, I actually went half blind. And I don't know if you know, if I told you that, but like in the upper vision, my upper vision was gone. And I could just only see out the lower of my eyes. And a client took me to the urgent care center, and they gave me no explanation for that. And it went away just as soon as it came. But I figured that was grief. That was stress. So, you know, things like that. So so I know that you got to find a way to deal with it one way or the other, because as long as you live, you're going to live with someone dying. So you know, like I told you today, I just mentally, physically, emotionally drained yesterday.
Yeah.
And just trying to deal with my own belief system. Because others don't have it, the same belief system, and you can't always share that with people. But and then even trying to hold on when you know that, okay, there's nothing I can do about this. So and you get trials, I'm actually going through the trial of trying to believe what I believe. No, trying to know what I think I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's embracing that, the person's physical is here left with us and soon will, decay and demise. But who was that person, the spirit, their essence? And hold on and embrace that and love that and know that energy, the energy just changed, it just shift. Energy was always remain.
Right.
And so I've used that as my focal point to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as going on, remembering my dad, or, he left us the greatest legacy ever. Afterwards, he, even though, they worked, but even those values were taught to us. And, we ain't never been slothful really, as far as working, none of us. But, the values, the family, and it's weird because they had great love and continued communication and whatever with family that they left in Mississippi or Massachusetts. They have folks, our family has strong familiar background, what do you call it? Whatever. But it wasn't always
customs.
Yeah, but the thing is that, that wasn't at home.
Yeah.
At home.
You say, strong familial traditions and customs. I can think about, them both having, your mom and your dad both having a lot of siblings. But
Yeah.
when things happen, all the siblings were there, no matter where they were.
Yeah.
That bond was there, in regard to being there for each other. But you're saying in regard to communication, right?
Yeah.
There are some areas of improvement, or there are some things that could have been improved in regard to them as parents, I guess.
Yeah, and then I guess it carries right on to myself and you.
Mm-hmm.
As far as improving communication. And just I don't know, we were like wild children in the neighborhood. We were the PKs of the PKs. So how does that equate? Still answers questions,
Yeah, and I think that when you lose someone, that's when you get the opportunity to make sense of it, or you get the opportunity to not make sense out of it and get distracted and get off course. So that's how I'm coming to understand grief and loss. Is it's an opportunity to refocus, readjust, not only personal values and personal goals, but in regard to my relation with other people and how I'm going to continue the remainder of my life is what I've kind of picked up with losing my grandfather.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So Mama, what aspect of his life reaching do you think that you personally will work hard to keep alive?
As although there were pros and cons to that family situation growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, the deep-seated value of family.
Mm-hmm.
Both parents on both sides had deep family values as far as whatever they did on them farms and together and stuff like that. They held true to that in some sense of the word. So, and family is important to me, but it's kind of difficult when it's I can still be the touch person. Everybody call me ex Ivory, Auntie Ivory, or whatever like that, and I could be the gravitating force to know what's going on with family and things like that too. So that's why, because of my parents. So I hope to continue that as long as I have the strength. So yeah, that. that legacy is going to be profound, even just to, my father met no strangers, and he was always outgoing and open, and he was such a business person in that regards. And, I learned early in doing business because I was a more inward person. I wasn't an outward person. So being in business, I had to learn how to be more open and to let people, let them in a little bit. And so those kind of things I can remember for both my mother and my father. They had people skills. And, so those things are things to be thought of and valued and try to keep going, because even after I leave, that family still has to stay connected. And it's kind of sad sometimes when we don't have that stronger foundational root. And I know I'm sounding contradictory to what I'm saying, have said in a way, but it's true. Oh, this is probably stuff that be talked about laid out on the therapist's couch.
Well, you're getting a little bit of it here mixed with a little bit of your son's love. How about that? So let's switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
We can talk about the assessment method that I use in my coaching program, which is the 11 life category solution focus brief therapy wheel. So what were some of your thoughts when you initially received the wheel and took a look at it? What were you thinking?
My main thought was, I'm going to go into this honestly and open.
Okay.
And I wanted to do that for you, but I really want to do it for myself.
Okay.
Because this has been an evaluate or reevaluating time. And it's been a time this last year or so to reflect, reevaluate if necessary. So I wanted to be honest with myself and honest on that wheel.
And so overall, looking at the 11 different areas, you score high overall. You only scored yourself low in three areas, but of the 11 different life categories, was there a particular category that caught your interest or that you thought more about the completion of the assessment?
Yeah, the last one, contribution. I didn't really understand where that was coming from, what direction it wanted to answer in.
Yeah, so when it says contribution, I'm thinking about what you can give back, either to the people you love, your community.
Well, at this time too, with that, it's kind of a stagnant period for me because I don't have a sense of where I can move in direction and serve because of COVID. I'm very cautious, and I believe fat meat is greasy. COVID is out there. It ain't leaving anytime soon. So it puts you in a stagnant type of place. At least it does for me. So, and then in a retirement age, I have served. I have taught, taught hair skills. I went back and did a program. I developed a program to talk with young girls. And so, I felt like I've served. I don't think I'm through with serving, but, stagnant because of life situation right now.
So, Mama, that's an interesting name that you can put in place of contribution. You could put service there. So thank you for that.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering why would it be contribution? I guess it meant in that way, but that was the only one that really had me kind of pondering and kind of stuck as like serving. I've always believed that we can always do something to serve our fellow man, our fellow woman, serve our community. I'm strong on that too, because our community needed so much
Yes.
And
Yes.
that was why I had developed the program, and initially developed the program with an African-centered point of view, which
Mm-hmm.
is hard to do when I first started doing it, because that was really before this last time that
Mm-hmm.
I had developed the program. Because, you know, a lot of things come from, you know, self-esteem, low self-esteem, no self-esteem comes from being denied the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think history plays a part in that. And young girls that which I was addressing, the self-esteem, because of standards of beauty, a simple thing like that. So it is important that we have to relook at this whole paradigm
Mm-hmm.
and rebuild ourselves, because something ain't right, baby.
Mm-hmm. Something's missing for sure.
Yeah, something's missing. And it deals, I think when developed the program before, it had to go to the root.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the root is how can, and even having been the single mother or the person that missed this kind of advice or this kind I taught some of those things in my classes,
Okay.
and those things were taught to build self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that is still very much needed. And I don't know, getting past COVID is another beast to
Yes,
me.
but your service and your contribution just has to take on a different form. Your presence has to take on a different form, and it's now virtual. So that's the new norm that COVID has introduced to the world.
Yeah, and it also means that, I need better skills. I'm not what is the word? Technology inclined. I am, but it's a learning process yet for me. And a lot of that going virtual requires that. And it's kind of interesting because I watched a lot of bloggers, YouTubers, or what have you. And it's always been a building process from equipment and tools that they use. Um, you know, you can see their progress from when they first started to where their scenery and everything look now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've learned a lot in that way, even doing that, because like now a lot of people don't even use their visuals, their self visuals, they use avatars. And so that's interesting to me. Yeah, so it could be virtual, it could be, something like that. Even then, and then in my own small way, I had to figure out how can I contribute.
Mm-hmm.
And because I couldn't, like, I can't march no more. I can't do that unless we get a wheelchair or something. I learned out in the last protest, I always have been very active in protests. I have back issues, so I can't do that. I learned the last march I tried to march, so I couldn't do that. But anyway, I could contribute financially, small amounts, no big, hundreds of dollars or nothing like that, but contribute in terms of supporting the causes I believed in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it says contribution, I just think in regard to giving back, and then, who you decide to give back to. So right. Let's talk about the areas where you scored low. You scored low in finance and wealth. You scored low in love, and you scored low in recreation and fun. So which one of those do you want to talk about before we wrap up?
Do I still have to be honest?
Well, that adds value, Ma, when you are honest.
Well, I would say financial and wealth, you can be pretty much, what they call it? They have a name for it. They call it something. Off of limited income.
Minimalist.
So,
the minimalist or frugal?
Yeah, kind of like that. I got to be more, I don't know how to say it. That's an area where I'm struggling. because of financial reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And because, how do you move forward in the different areas with not enough income to achieve the goals that you would like? So maybe it's to figure out how to make more income.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other?
Love.
Love.
You scored a 2.
You talking about romantic love?
Well, it's a subjective definition, however you want to define it.
Well, I defined it as romantic love.
Okay.
And I am recently divorced. And even, you limited, again, COVID. How do you go back and go out, meet people, meet different people, unless you meet them in the grocery store? So that is not big on my list right now, something that I have to obtain even at this age. Companionship is wonderful. Love it. But it's not a main priority or issue with me because, as I said, I am comfortable with my me.
Okay.
So there's no real challenge there. And that's why I score low, because it's not a priority.
Oh, okay. Okay. So same for recreation and fun. I think those.
Exactly the same.
Okay. All right.
Because of the same thing, COVID limits that for me in terms of getting out and doing what I want to do. So what I do now is what I do in-house. I like painting. I've done some of that. It's always here for me to continue, have a few canvases I want to continue to do that for or with. I am an avid YouTuber. I watch YouTuber more than I watch anything. And I watch all kinds of stuff.
Right.
So I've learned a lot, and I've used this time also as a time of learning. It's a time for self-education.
Mm-hmm.
And you can pretty much learn anything you want to learn on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my recreation, really. Sometimes if I go out, I can't wait to get back home and watch what I want to watch on my TV, on YouTube or whatever, my special program. So those kind of things, it's kind of disappointing just even getting this resurgence of the COVID, because I like with recreation, the school system offer recreation, things that I enjoy doing. I was prepared to take classes. Now that's not an option for me. So COVID makes a difference, and I'm not going to try to deny that it does for me. Does not.
So you kind of answered the final questions in regard to experiential action planning, Mama, because that's one of the caveats of the MZZ for Life coaching program, is the experiential action plan. In the areas where an individual scores low, what experiences would they like to plan, create, or involve themselves in to make a change in those areas? So I think you talked about that when you talked about, watching YouTube. But are there any other experiential action plans that you could create in the midst of COVID to increase those scores or raise those scores on your priority list?
I don't know if I have to.
Okay.
At this particular point, or where I'm at in life right now, I don't think I have to.
Okay.
Because I don't have inward direction on how to challenge those things.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, I'm not comfortable with it, but I can stay there for a while because I have no choice.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So we were going to take some questions from the listening audience, but no one has decided to join us today. But if there was someone here, Mama, would you have any takeaways, any words of advice that you would like to share with the listening audience? I know you are a natural hair care specialist. You are a botanist, self, made gardener, gardener extraordinaire. There any takeaways you would like to leave with the listening audience?
No, but one thing I've learned is that life is very individual design at some point, when you can become inclusive of others, for sure. But I don't know how my personal outlook really can direct someone else's, because I am individually and wonderfully made. And my outlook and expectations, or my me, is not going to be the same for anyone. I could probably give somebody some clues, like on gardening. I could give somebody some information in regards to hair care, those kind of things. And that's something I've been doing. Like on Facebook, they have a hair page where different hair people come in and join, and they put in different questions or challenges, and I can contribute in those areas, and I am or have contributed and have had good rapport. So it keeps me active in that way, still giving, still teaching, but there are some things that are just generalized for someone in that business. It's not just a person's individual life design.
So, Mom, would you ever consider like doing a video about a particular hairstyle or something related to cosmetology, and recording it and filming it and sharing it?
Not really.
No. Okay.
No, because there is so much of that out here already.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like with hair, basically you have the foundation, which is the basics. You can teach that, and a person's own creativity goes from there.
Mm-hmm.
But basic principles are basic principles, like basic principles in hair color or installation and weaving and stuff like that. And things change a lot, but the basic principles and foundation remains the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it doesn't seem something, because you can go on YouTube or Instagram right now, and I do, and there are hundreds literally of people doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I even kind of like just go back, I call it my hair porn, just to get that out of me, because I still love doing hair. I still love learning in that regards. So I watch different videos and just, kind of like, just keeping up with the industry. But like I said, there's so many out there. It's just, you got to be doing something exceptional to gather an audience, first of all. And what I have noticed is that most people have built their audience off of like Facebook or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then extended it to YouTube. And then they become monetized, and you become monetized by having a certain amount of subscribers.
Right.
And then the more subscribers you get, the more money you can make actually off of doing that. Yeah, so it's not something I just want to do. If I did anything, it would be more like in the developmental stage of the program that I did in teaching, African history based, program like that for kids.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that I would love to do. But you still have to gather that audience, and how is that audience attracted to you?
Mm-hmm.
And something I learned in doing hair is that, you gravitate to you people that are similar or familiar to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like when I was younger, I had much younger clientele.
Mm-hmm.
And as I got older, my clientele became older,
Mm-hmm.
which was a twist, because by that time, most older women have started wearing their hair natural.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot of big decrease in finance for me because haircutting services weren't as paid, or they weren't as financially rewarding as just doing a haircut.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, interesting stuff, Ma. I want to thank you for taking the time out today to share with me and the listening audience about your history, your family history, the challenges of loss and grief, and making your contribution here today to the development of the MZZ for Life Coaching Solutions, where we strive to create life solutions built from personal values and your personal experiences. Quick wellness check before we close out. We talked about some pretty deep things here today. Do you mind letting the listening audience know where you are emotionally at this particular point?
Well, truthfully, I'd hate to end it on a point, but like I said, yesterday we attended a memorial service for my aunt. And I realized that I was emotionally, mentally, and physically drained last night. And it's just everything, that was part of experiencing grief again, because that, even with this just being a year, just a year from my dad's death, just like in your Facebook, you have memories that come up. Mm-hmm. Well, this time, my memories from a year ago are full of my dad's loss.
Yeah.
With pictures and things that I sent online so that, my sister could have them for the obituary and all. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of full of, I'm kind of full, and so not full to the place that I don't still use it from a learning experience, but just full because of everything, COVID, all of it, everything, just full.
So quickly to close out, since we're back to, loss and grief, a couple of questions I skipped, we can come back to, because, I subscribe to a particular motto for loss and grief right now. And it's an upside down U, right? It looks like a valley. Mm-hmm. On one side of the valley, you have loss hurt. And on the other side of the valley, you have loss adjustment. And in between, mm-hmm, those points, you have 20 different stages of grief. And so I'm just going to ask you to pick a number from 1 to 20. And then we'll first decide what side of the valley that stage is on. And then we'll talk about, where you are in regard to experiencing it in your process of loss and grief. So pick a number from 1 to 20, Ma.
I'll say 10. All
right. 10 is guilt. Do you think it's on the loss hurt side or loss adjustment side?
I think it's on loss adjustment.
It is actually on the loss hurt side. Wow. And above it, you have panic. And then after it, you have loneliness. But why do you think guilt might be considered as a stage in the process of loss and grief? And then you want to talk a little bit about if it plays a role or not in how you're processing or have processed loss and grief?
I think, I don't know about loss and grief, but in general, I think I'm surprised it's with guilt, because I feel like any place, like I said, I'm very inward and I'm very self-evaluating. And even if I say with the guilt, I think it's something I'm working through. I think it's something that I am not unaware of, that I'm aware of, and really have moved on further in that stage. And it's like, where does that apply in my life? And I was like, it's like raising a son. You know, the times I wasn't there, the times you had to be with your aunts and be raised, and, you know, working the schedule that I did. And it really was not the greatest excuse, you know, having the relationships I've had, everything has to be, okay, well, you know, that was how it is. You felt bad about it. Can we move on?
Okay. All right. Well, we gonna be all right, mama.
We gonna be all right, Bunky.
And just having this discussion here today is just proof of how, iron sharpens iron. I love you, mama. I'm forever impressed with the woman you are. And the way that you actually, continue to contribute to the lives of others, both in our family and outside of our family, it's very impressive. It encourages me to make myself, more available
Mhm.
to the experiences of others. And so,
But that's something you learn, and you be aware of it, so you move more in that direction.
amen. Yes, very true.
Hmm.
Especially, as I age.
Right.
I understand the importance of it.
Right.
So hopefully, we're closing out, in a good space of love and increased understanding. More importantly, divine healing on this Super Soul Sunday.
I think so too.
We're gonna turn this interview into a podcast. I'm gonna reach out, to someone to ask if it can be turned into a podcast, and
Good.
the way we share it. I think there are some golden nuggets that have presented here today that will be helpful to other people of the
Okay.
mother-son units.
Okay.
And so I just want to thank you, Mama, and thank you, in love and gratitude for the mom you are, and the mom you continue to be for me.
Oh, you're welcome.
So that concludes this solution focused brief interview with the extraordinary and beautifully her Ivory Edwards Adkins. This interview was provided to you by MZZ for Life Coaching Solutions, where we strive to provide a values-driven experiential approach to life coaching. And if you are interested in your personal consultation, you can contact us at www.mzzforlifecoaching.com. That's www.mzzforlifecoaching.com, or James at mzzforlifecoaching.com to schedule your complimentary consultation today. So thank you, Mama. I love you.
You're welcome. Love you too. Have a great evening.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.